Welcome to Forest Namesake. We're glad that you're here. I'm Valentine. This is my mom, Martina. And as you can tell, we're in a different setting today. We just got really tired of being in the truck all the time to do talks. It's just more convenient because there's less distractions. And on windy days, it does help. But we're risking it today. We're at a park and people have gone to work, so this is the perfect opportunity. And hopefully the sound quality is okay. It is a windy day, but I have been covering the mic area, so hopefully you can hear me. Yes. Today's topic is going to be on the Persecuted Church. It just came upon me because I recently finished a book by Sabina Wurmbrand. She is the wife of Richard Wurmbrand, who founded Voice of the Martyrs. You may have heard of him, and we'll talk about that organization later. But really, they are the ones who made America and a lot of other countries aware of the underground church or the persecuted church. So, that's what we'll be talking about today.
Yeah. And I guess I'll start with a nice Bible verse. It's found in Matthew chapter 5, verse 10. It reads like this: "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." I love that. That's a part of the, is it the Beatitudes?
Yes,
I think, yeah.
I think it is.
So, yeah. And, as Christians, all of us can be persecuted from time to time when we're sharing our faith with our family members, friends, or strangers, or people happen to be listening, the wrong people are listening in while we are sharing the gospel with others, and they may not like it, and they may persecute us, whether that's with harsh words, so that would be verbally, then there's emotionally to the point where they keep harassing you about it, then there's physically. Here in the United States, I don't know of anyone that's been physically persecuted for sharing their faith or even being known as being a Christian and someone not liking it. Maybe more verbally, and I would think.
I mean, if it is physically, you don't hear about it here.
Right. So mostly in foreign lands, restricted nations, hostile nations, that kind of thing, that's where you'll see a lot more physical environments where Christians are persecuted for their faith or sharing the gospel with others. Mm-hmm. Okay, did you have
I have something from, my page went away. It is windy, so my page just kind of went everywhere. But I was going to read from 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12. Paul says, "Yes, and all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will suffer persecution. It's inevitable." And I don't really think I've suffered persecution. I mean, I want to live godly, of course, but I don't know, it's mostly me witnessing others being persecuted in different ways. And even persecution sounds kind of harsh.
It does, actually, yeah.
For me, anyway, because I've not gone through a harsh thing like that.
Right.
I might have had loss because of our Christian faith. You know, we had to separate ties from my grandparents who were not believers, and they did not like talking about it, and it got really ugly. Mm-hmm, so I guess in that way, but
yeah, and they mocked our Christian faith and would make fun of Jesus. Yeah, that's a form of persecution, but it's not severe like what we're thinking of.
Not for us. Now, I won't give names, but a lot of you subscribers have shared that you didn't use the word persecute, but I would say it is a form of persecution because you live with loved ones and family members who don't agree with your faith. And if you want to share that more in the comments, you can go ahead, but we're grateful for any testimony that you can share. It's very encouraging. Yeah. And please know that we're praying for you, because that must be really hard to go through.
Yes, definitely.
And I have something from John 15. Sorry, folks. John 15, starting verse 18. Jesus says, "If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own, yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. if they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me. So, I mean, it may seem like they're against you, but really it's the idea behind what you believe in, of course, is Jesus Christ. They don't know him and they don't want to know him. And so they lash out, either because they themselves are fearful or they've been taught to hate Christ, especially in communist countries. There are a lot of atheists there. Mm-hmm. There's a number of reasons why they don't love Jesus, so therefore they're going to persecute you.
Yes. Now, I have another Bible verse, but I think it kind of goes with the first one that you talked about, Matthew chapter 5, verse 11 and 12. Blessed are you when they revile. This is continuation, apparently, of the Beatitudes. Yeah. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Yeah, that kind of sounded like that's what you were reading a while ago. It's going to be expected, but
yeah,
be exceedingly glad. That's going to be hard, I think, to be exceedingly glad when someone's mocking and yelling at us. And someone once told me, don't take it personally. They're not really against you per se. They're against Christ. That's what someone told me once.
Right.
But of
course,
that's
what Jesus himself said.
Yeah.
They persecuted me.
Right. So, yeah. But did you have another Bible verse? Because I was going to mention who that Richard Wurmbrand was.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that would be, if you had another Bible verse to talk about just being persecuted in general.
Maybe Romans 12:14. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. So, wow. Yeah. I don't know how it would be to bless my enemies.
That kind of goes with be glad.
It does.
Be exceedingly glad. That is a tough one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are probably really, really strong Christians. We're talking probably the ones, our brothers and sisters who are serving overseas, who are very brave. I think that even though they've lost loved ones, and they still go on serving the Lord, and their faith is just as strong as it was before. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But, yeah, she mentioned that she was encouraged to talk about this because she had just finished reading the book called The Pastor's Wife, right, by Sabina?
Sabina Wurmbrand.
Yeah, and then her husband, Richard Wurmbrand, he was imprisoned 14 years in communist Romania just for having his faith in Jesus Christ. Wow. Mm-hmm. And so that's what he started the, isn't he the one that started the Voice of the Martyrs?
Yes, I mean, he's considered the founder.
Yeah, he was the founder. Yeah, I have it right here. I don't know why I didn't just read it. In 1967, as a matter of fact.
Hey.
And so an example of the Persecuted Church would be the Voice of the Martyrs. It is an international nonprofit organization whose mission is to defend the human rights of the persecuted Christians around the world. So, yeah. And they do serve in the most difficult and dangerous places that you can imagine. And they actually have a map that you can get from them. It's free, and you can put it on your wall. We've done that before in the past when we had a house. And it has all the countries kind of shaded in with different colors, and it will tell you which. Down the bottom there'll be like a, what do you call it, a map, kind of a, what do you call those things where it tells you what each, a map key that will tell you which nations are considered to be restricted, which nations are considered to be hostile, and then there's ones that are moderated. And the ones that are restricted are the ones where those Christians don't have any support whatsoever from the government or anyone that's in that country to help them out. They're basically on their own. So they're getting hostility or persecution from all people from the streets, people in the government, everything. Whereas the hostile nations are the ones where they do have government aid, but they're still going to be persecuted from people on the streets for sharing Christ. And when we talk about persecution, we're talking about being stoned, churches being put on fire, losing loved ones, shooting the pastors, sorting them, Pardon me?
torture.
Yeah, the worst that you can imagine. Even children. These people that are persecuting Christians don't have any feelings whatsoever. I often ask myself, what if that was their mother they were killing? What if someone in return did something to one of their family members? I don't know that they would actually have a conscience. I don't think that it really matters to them. That's the depth of their hatred towards Christianity.
Yeah.
So, just like in Jesus' times, people being cruel to Jesus. They're doing the same thing to our brothers and sisters in those countries overseas. So, here's an interesting one. In Lamentations, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Never mind. The wind blew my
Yeah,
papers and it brought it to another discussion. I am so sorry. But basically, a martyr comes from the Greek word martis, which means witness. Wow, I would have never thought that. And martyrs are individuals who die for their faith in Jesus Christ. So there's somewhere, I love that Bible passage. I want to say it's in Revelation where it talks about the end times, or in heaven or something, where we will see the martyrs that died for Christ, and we will see them by the blood that they shed. Something to that extent. It's a beautiful passage.
I know that. I don't know which martyrs it was mentioning. I think it was for the end times, like my mom said, because there will be Christians in the end times who will get saved. And yes, it does say they will be martyred. I don't know how. But they do say, when will we be avenged? When will you basically do justice? And Jesus said, for a little while, I'm going to give you these robes of rest, So, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
And I do have something, because the reason why we're mentioning this too is it's a commandment. In Hebrews 13:3, it says, remember the prisoners as if chained with them, those who are mistreated, since you yourselves are in the body also. They're still our brothers and sisters. They're still part of the church.
Yeah.
And it's our duty to pray for them.
And if you can, we can also leave financial donations to them, whether just a one-time donation, or you can monthly support a family or an individual that's serving over there in those hostile and restricted nations. And we did that once years ago. And at that time, it was only about $25 a month. It's probably gone up now. Since COVID, everything's gone up. But nevertheless, if you have a heart for your persecuted brothers and sisters, and you want to help them out by doing a donation, it helps with their living costs, whatever they need, food, clothing.
I think it's called action packs. And you can also donate to give those who don't have a Bible, because that's another reason for them being persecuted is if they were caught with a Bible, they can get killed in some countries for owning one.
Right.
And it's a gift for them to have one, and they're trying to be very careful with them. So you can donate to give them a Bible, and it goes for like 5 people. I did that once.
Yeah.
So it's not too expensive.
Yeah, that's neat.
Another thing that organization has is you can write letters to those who are in prison for their faith. They mentioned 2 or 3 on the website. There's a pastor right now who's been held in China for 2,227 days.
Oh my goodness.
And they have a link where you can send him a letter to encourage him. Another one is a Korean Chinese citizen, and he's been held in North Korea for 3,799 days. And there's, I think, one other that they mentioned. So we take things for granted here. And I'm not saying that America will never go through that. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of sobering. It's something that a lot of people don't talk about because it is such a sad subject and you don't want to depress yourselves. And I can understand that. But at the same time, don't harden yourself too.
Right.
It's okay to remember our brothers and sisters across the world who pray for us. I'd rather they pray for America or those countries who don't have the persecution they do, and yet they still pray that our faith will be strengthened. I think that we should do the same.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't even know that there was such a thing as the Persecuted Church. I didn't even know the Voice of the Martyrs existed until somewhere in our church someone put it on a bulletin board and said, would you like to go attend a conference where you can meet some people who are really risking their lives because they have a heart for Jesus and they want a heart for people and wanting to share the gospel with people in restricted nations and difficult nations where it's even hard to get to. You know, you have to get to the airport and then from there take a motorcycle for 3 hours and then after that take a boat in some remote village to get to the next village. And so, you know, under harsh conditions and wanting to share Jesus. So yeah, I didn't even know about it until it was on a bulletin somewhere. Come to a conference and you can learn more. Sometimes they'll have those. The Voice of the Martyrs conferences, those are really, because we get to meet the people that are doing all that. It's kind of neat. A lot of them will not have their names because, you know, they need to be secret.
Or their face will be covered. So
yeah, kind of blurred. And yeah, exactly. So, but they still tell their story of what they go through. Yeah.
In fact, at that conference I mentioned before is where I gave my life to Christ.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, because they have some wonderful children's programs too. And they used to have a children's magazine. I don't know if they still do, with different crafts that you can learn from different countries of our sisters and brothers and sisters in Christ. I think it's called The Link. I don't know if that was what it was called, but don't quote me. But they do have a free magazine. So yeah, you can go to their website at Voice of the Martyrs. I think is it .org. We should have written that down.
Voice of the Martyrs. Their website link might say like persecution.com, but just look at Voice of the Martyrs and you'll find it. Yeah,
and my husband can put that down in the description box below and describe it more, where to get more information about them.
And for adult readers, I doubt we have any children watching or teenagers watching.
You never know.
But the books that I recommend, especially maybe the first one I'm going to recommend, is more for adults. You can give it to your child or grandchildren if you think they are ready to read some of this, because it is kind of graphic. But Richard Wurmbrand, and I say Wurmbrand, I think that's how you pronounce it, because in Europe I know the W's are pronounced with a V sound, so I'm just assuming that's how you pronounce it. But he wrote a book called Tortured for Christ, and he was tortured. In fact, when he, after he went to prison twice, but there was an amnesty where the communists released all the thousands of prisoners, and some of those prisoners weren't even saved, but they became saved, and he was able to go to Norway, and they helped him and his wife, and they traveled across the world, and he made it to the States, and I think it was in Congress where someone asked him to strip down so they could see his scars, and you will find pictures of that. And so out of his experience of that, he wrote a book called Torture for Christ, and how they try to brainwash him, especially the communists, saying there is no Christ, there is no Christ, and they would say that over and over again. So it's a miracle, a true miracle, that he was still strong in his faith.
Yeah.
And of course his wife wrote, the pastor's wife, her name's Sabina. I'm sure you also know, this is not part of the Voice of Martyrs, but Fox's Book of Martyrs.
Mm-hmm.
There's also 2 books that the Voice of Martyrs did with, I think his name is Toby Mack, or what the band used to be called DC Talk, and there's 2 volumes of that. So those are really good resources to read.
And I was just going to say about the children's magazine, they're not going to show any graphic things there. It's mainly a fun magazine for kids to be involved with, to get to know the different countries, and then you'll get to do a flag. I remember doing a flag of the country, and I remember doing learning some of their meals that they have. Like, let's say, for example, the country would be Indonesia, and then you would learn how to make, let's say, nasi goreng, which is fried rice, and so I know that because we used to live in Indonesia, and so you would learn fun things, and then you might learn some things about the weather, or the how the terrain is it jungle, is it whatever. So it was more fun and educational than the more graphic that would be in the adult magazine. I just wanted to point that out. So.
And if even if they did mention something sad, like my mom said, it wouldn't be violent or anything. They might just say like, children your age don't get to go to church.
Right.
Children your age don't get to go to a Christian school. So.
Yeah.
And I probably won't read it all, but the first time the persecuted church is mentioned, well, it doesn't say persecuted church, but like the subtitle is from Revelation chapter 2, verses 8 through 11. And he was talking to the church of Smyrna, who were going to be persecuted, even to death. But it was supposed to be an encouraging letter.
Yeah.
So, whether or not you're persecuted or not, please pray for our brothers and sisters all over the world. And let me know if you're going to try some of these resources or look them up, and how we can pray for you too.
Yes. Exactly.
And we hope that you have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.